A question that I often get asked is, should I start with acoustic or electric? The short answer is it depends. Kind of depends on what music you like, and it depends what your budget is, and it depends whether you want something that's heavy to carry around or something that's a bit lighter. So I'll give you a few points to consider, okay? So let's talk about the electric guitar first of all. If you're not too au fait with the way an electric guitar sounds, it's like... Okay, that's your kind of your lead guitar sound there. You've also got some more kind of chord sounds as well. All right, so electric guitar, you know, you're thinking about players like Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix and Slash and that kind of thing. Electric guitar music that goes with rock bands. And electric guitar, generally speaking, might be slightly easier to play in the beginning, if I'm completely honest, right? Because the action on an electric guitar tends to be a little bit lower. The action is the distance that these strings sit from the fretboard, okay? So if those strings are quite high up, it's going to be harder for your fretting hand to actually push the strings down. So the action, you want a low action, and an electric guitar that's set up well will always have a low action. Well, as long as you ask them to have a low action. Some people actually want a higher one as a preference, but generally speaking, a lower action is better and easier to play. However, you will have to buy an amplifier for your electric guitar. You can see these two speakers behind me, right? When I play, they're obviously pumping out the sound. If I don't have the speakers on, it doesn't quite have the same kick. All right, so that's something to consider. Also, electric guitars generally are a pretty heavy piece of wood. All right, now this is a Fender Stratocaster, well, a copy of, and this is a relatively light electric guitar, okay, relatively light. If you were to get like a Les Paul or a Les Paul copy, that would be really heavy. That's one of the reasons I don't really go for them, even though I love them. I love the sound of them. I prefer to go for the Strat, just a bit more comfortable for me personally. So that's another reason you might want to go electric. So let's do a little switcheroo and let's talk about why we might go for the acoustic. Listen up, if you're brand new to guitar or you're feeling lost, stuck and frustrated with your progress, check out my free PDF 10 survival tips for beginner guitarists. I'll put a link to that in the description. I'll also keep you posted on something new and exciting that's coming soon. Let's get back to it. Okay, easy, I wish I could do that on gigs. So this is the acoustic guitar, and this is kind of how it sounds, right? So we're just going to strum a few sort of typical chords. Okay, so that's the way an acoustic sounds. I'm sure you recognise that from some of your favourite recordings and whatnot. Now, an acoustic guitar is much lighter, so it's easier to carry around. It is, however, a lot thicker in the body, so when you're carrying it around on your back, it can be slightly cumbersome, but the actual weight of it, as long as you've got a good case to go with it, is much better. You don't need to plug it in as well. And yes, the strings are a little harder to push down because the nature is that acoustic guitar strings are a little thicker. Although you can actually put electric guitar strings on an acoustic if you want to. So that's something to think about going forwards. But generally speaking, the strings will be thicker, just a little more difficult to play, but it's not like an insurmountable obstacle, if you see what I mean. And of course, you can take your acoustic anywhere, unamplified, and it will still project nice and loudly. And of course, sounds absolutely gorgeous. So in terms of which one to choose, I think I do change my mind. But at the moment I'm edging more towards the acoustic because of its portability, because it is pretty much as playable as an electric as long as you've got it set up correctly. It's also going to be cheaper because you haven't got to buy an amplifier. You'll be able to, you'll be able to get an acoustic that's pretty good without the amp. So, maybe £150 or something. One thing that's worth considering is whether you want steel or nylon strings. Now, if you go for steel strings like this one, that's the kind of sound you're going to get, right? And they're a little more harsh on the ends of the fingertips. If you've got a nylon string guitar, also known as a classical guitar, right? The strings are much, much softer, a bit more easier on the fingers. But then the actual neck itself, the guitar neck, is a little wider. So that's something to consider when you're doing your chords and things. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. I mean, honestly, get into a guitar shop, try some stuff out, see what fits you. But I'm going to go with the acoustic.